get through to him. And from my experience, none of it changed anything. He did not listen. He did not take advice. He did not receive counsel in a way that brought safety, stability, or change to this situation. And when children are involved, when your livelihood is on the line, and when your future is being affected, silence completely stops being an option. I also want to say something clearly before I continue. During one of our altercations while I was pregnant, he told me he would pay someone $20,000 to get rid of me. I have documentation surrounding that incident, and I will speak more about it later in this series. So if anything were to ever happen to me, I need it understood that statements like that were made directly to me during this relationship.
You think you're funny. You think it's all fun and games. Like, why do you want me to get into a point where I don't care what the Israel? Why do you want me to get to a point to where I can really?
It's not my fault.
No. Listen to me. Do you not care that I could turn into a greasy ass nigga and say fuck the Israelites and all of that and really get on you in a whole type of way that you couldn't even respond to? Why do you want to push a nigga there?
I don't.
Like, why do you want me?
I don't.
You know I got more money than you and your whole family. Why would you want me to just like say, all right, fuck that. I'm about to just slaughter this bitch. Why do you want me to do that?
You want to do that. That's not what I want you to do. That's what you want to do.
Kill you and your family. That's what I want to do. I want to kill you and your
Why
family.
you want to kill me and my family? Why would you even bring that up?
I just asked you a question, you fucking dummy. I want to kill you and your family. That's what you're saying? That's
what you're saying. I didn't bring that up. Who brought that up? Who brought that up? I never said you want to kill me and my whole family.
You know what? Here's a...
This is crazy.
I'm not saying this for shock value. I'm not saying it for attention. I'm saying it because I took statements like that seriously, especially given everything else that occurred.
Brakatay Hawa, Brakatay Hawa Shai, Brakatay Hawa, Brakatay Hawa Shai, Brakatay Hawa, Brakatay Hawa Shai. I want to start by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for this doctrine to push out there to the hopeful Akim wa Akwa, out there looking for answers, looking for deliverance, listening, learning, doing the work, the brothers doing the work, and the sisters listening in silence. And I make this lesson as a warning, okay? And as wisdom, right? Be a lion abroad, but a lamb at home. That's what I'm going to title this lesson. And first, I'm going to start with Sirach chapter 4 and verse 30. Be not as a lion in thy house, nor frantic among thy servants, right? Okay? Because we as men, we have to be warriors, right? We're warriors. We have to be, we got to be warriors at work. We got to be warriors, especially in this truth for the Lord. This is your number one job, right? But in this truth, you have to be a warrior. Brothers that like to exercise, work out. I myself like to do so, in the gym, right? You want to go in there, you lift heavy, and when it comes down to it, you got to get down and dirty physically, carnally, against your enemies. I know good brothers that fight on an amateur level, on a semi-professional level, they have to be lions in that ring, right? But when you get home, you can't become cold and impatient and distant and difficult to deal with, right? Because the scriptures don't tell a man to stop being a man. You're not going to be a man by treating it's not unbecoming of a man to actually treat the people in your household, with gentleness and respect, right? Right. When Sirach chapter 4 and 30 said, be not as a lion in thy house, a lion is on the battlefield confronting adversity and standing boldly for righteousness, but you can't bring that same harshness into your household, You know, you have to create you can't create an atmosphere of tension, you know, instead of peace, man. You have to create an atmosphere of peace. You know, your household shouldn't feel like a military checkpoint. You know, your woman get around you like, oh shit, what is he finna say now? What he finna do now? You know, you out there fighting. You know, the world got you bugged out. You know, not the truth is not. Let me slack you. The world got you bugging out. You know, because you know the truth. You know, and you out there, you fighting every damn day. You know, you just waiting to get out of here. And your woman, she come at you with, I want to go here, I want to go there. You got to have a balance, man. You know, the teacher, the description, the teacher, Salakia. I'm enjoying this lesson, but, you know, when we read these scriptures, you know, these scriptures really do teach us about balance, man, because your woman shouldn't feel like she's walking on eggshells around you, man. Otherwise, you're going to have a Deacon Hakah situation. When you don't use wisdom with your woman, you get these type of situations. Your woman will come against you, right? You know, a man can be strong without being cruel, man. You know, you can be firm, but you don't have to be abrasive. You don't have to be harsh, right? You can lead without making everyone miserable, man. Right? You know, you got this man, he's pimping his woman. You can't pimp your woman. Let me get that scripture. No whoremongers. Right? You know, that's Hebrews chapter 13 and 4. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers Yahweh Bashem Yashai will judge. Right? You know, you can't be trying to pretty much pimp your woman. Right? Yeah, her inheritance comes to you, such as in the book of Proverbs 31. Right? Her inheritance comes to you, right? But you don't pimp your woman. Right? You use her assets to benefit the household, to benefit the operation, and benefit the machine, not for you to live pleasurably off of her. It's for y'all. You see, you have to treat your woman with respect, man. Let me get Colossians chapter 3 and verse 19. Okay, now, I don't make this lesson to say, oh, be a simp. Oh, put her on a pedestal. No, man, I don't make this lesson to do that. It's saying use wisdom, right? Use wisdom. Use discretion. You don't need to over report to your woman, or don't tell her. You don't have to explain. You don't need to argue with her, right? Sometimes, you know, women are, we know how women are. We know how they are. Especially if you got a good woman dealing with you. If you got a good woman dealing with you, try to maintain that situation, man. You're always going to have trouble in the flesh when it comes to women, no matter what kind of woman you got. Whether you got a wicked one or a righteous one. We are all works of progress. See, if you got a woman that's dealing with you, and is especially one that's, you know, got some degree of kindness to you, you know, ain't none of them gonna be perfect, man. They all got bodies. They all got imperfections. They all, you see what I'm saying? They all, a lot of them, to be honest with you, 99% of them ain't shit. Most of them worldly, because women are worldly. And this is, if this doesn't apply to you sisters, man, you know, it don't apply to you. But if you dealing with a good woman, deal with her wisely, man. Okay. Otherwise, you get this situation. Let me get Colossians chapter 3, verse 19. And it says, husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them, right? You know, Paul wrote this to the Colossians, man, the Israelites that were scattered and And what was that? Salakia, the name of the country. It's on the tip of my tongue, man. Colossians is a demonym for them. Let me actually get that. But he wrote that to the Israelites that were scattered in that country, in that nation. You know, you had the Corinthians, you had the Corinthians, you had the Thessalonians, the Galatians, right? The Ephesians, right? These were letters that he wrote to them. But you know, he said that he wrote this to give them wisdom and to teach them the gospel of Yahweh Shai, man. Right? Paul didn't just say, oh, hey, only love your woman when she's agreeable and in a good mood, or only when she's doing right, man. You gotta love your wives regardless, man. And don't be bitter against them, man. Because a lot of men do slowly become bitter, especially when the world is beating you down, man, and you know the truth and these curses getting to you, man. You become bitter, man. You know, a lot of men slowly become bitter, and everything becomes a criticism and a correction and a frustration, man. Instead of seeing your woman as a companion, man, because when she's dealing with you, man, you know, she's a companion with you, man. You know, you gotta see her as a companion instead of seeing her as another problem to solve. Otherwise, you get a situation like this. Now, I'm not telling brothers how to deal with their women. I'm just saying, like, because you gotta be careful about that, man. You know, men real sensitive about their woman. But, you know, you can't look at your woman as another problem to be solved, man. You know, that's a whole human being, whole time. You know, a lot of these women are children of the Most High as well, man. Not just, you know, a lot of them are children of the Most. Again, this is not putting them on a pedestal. This is just to remind whoever needs to hear it, you know, that that women are humans too, you know. They got their own issues, you know, the Most High dealing with them in some type of way, whether it's on the right hand or the left hand, you know. You know what I'm saying? But don't harden your heart against your woman. I'm speaking of which, let me get Sirach chapter 9 and verse 1. Sirach chapter 9 and verse 1. And that just came to mind. Sirach 9 and 1. And it says, be not jealous over the wife of thy bosom, and teach her not an evil lesson against thyself, right? Because it's like, it's not just about like the jealousy part of the scripture, but when it says like teach her not a lesson against thyself, it's telling you don't be consistently teaching her through your actions that she's not important. Even though Apostle Paul did say, you know, those who have wives be as though you have none, it doesn't mean that she's not important. It just means that she doesn't come before the work. You see? Your woman is an extension of yourself. If you take care of yourself, you have to take care of your woman. Otherwise, that part of you, that's going to be a check engine light. You know what I'm saying? You driving down the road, your check engine light, come on, women's check engine light's always on, man. It's always going to be something wrong. It's always going to be something, right? But you can't look at it like, oh, shit, what's going on now? Now, we all, you know, if we got brothers, we dealing with, you know, brothers, we dealing with women. You know, we all have our little separate little issues when it comes to our women and stuff, right? But, you know, always, it be stuff like when you always got time for your hobbies, but never for her. Now, you always got time for the truth, but you don't make no time with her, or only talking to her when you want something, or you constantly emotionally unavailable. Now, if you dealing with broad that ain't shit and is giving you shit, I get it, right? Right, but you promising time with her, but you never following through, you know, you're gonna get these things slowly build resentment and have them building a case against you. And when that day comes, man, they will strike, right? Because of your actions, whether you realized it or not, right? Let me get 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 7. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 7. And it says, likewise, Ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered, right? And you know, dealing with them according to knowledge mean know your woman. You know what I'm saying? What encourages her? What discourages her? What makes her feel appreciated? What makes her feel neglected, right? You know, you got to study your woman. You know what I'm saying? You don't, it, you know, First Esdras chapter 4 and verse 26, you know, many men become servants for this. You're not becoming a servant. You're not becoming a servant to her by studying her and knowing what she wants, right? You're not becoming weak. It's so that way you can lead. You know what I'm saying? You can't really lead anything you don't understand. If you don't understand your woman and the shit that she need, how you gonna really make the situation work out for both of y'all? You know what I'm saying? Because your wife is your possession, man, just like it says in the book of Sirach chapter 36. You know what I'm saying? She's a help to you. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let me get that. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't criticize everything that she do, because you know women are wicked. We all know women are wicked, man. They ain't a lot of them, you know what I'm saying? But you can't be, when it comes to the women of your own household, man, you know, whether you got one or you got two or three, or however many the Lord blessed you with, man, sometimes all a brother need is one. Sometimes that's all you need. You get any more than that, you're in trouble. The Lord know what you need, and everything will come in its appointed time, whether you're going to have 2 or 4 or 6 or 1,000 or 1 or 0. It just depends on what the Lord think you need, right? Let me get Sirach chapter 36, verse 24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, a pillar of rest, right? You know what I'm saying? It's all about the atmosphere man create, man, in his own household, man. And that would determine what type of relationship that you gonna have, man, at home, right? So you don't have to become soft or, you know, become emotional or in touch with your feminine side, like they used to say in the 90s and shit. How do I know that? I'm only 30. No, I'm not gonna say that, 31, but how would I know that? You know, but you know, you watch older movies and, you know, they say, oh, he's in touch with his feminine side, you know. I'm a young dude, man, you know, but that's besides the point, you know. But you know, you don't have to do all that Edomite shit, man. And oh, you're the sun, the moon, you're my angel, man. Fuck that. I know I ain't doing no shit like that. But you know, when you know, it's deal with your woman in wisdom, man. Sometimes you get what you get when it comes to women. But when the Lord bless you with somebody that is kind of dealing with you, man, like be easy on that shit, man. Be easy on her, man. You know these women are like big ass children, man. You know, you gotta, you know, I'm gonna get Sirach chapter 9 again. Let me go back to Sirach chapter 9, because it was something in Sirach chapter 9 I seen earlier when I was reading to y'all Sirach 9 and 1. And it was actually verse 9. Sirach chapter 9 and verse 9. No, Salakia. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 9. That's what I was thinking about. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 9. Let me get that. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 9. And it says, live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of thy life, all the days of the life of thy vanity. Salakia, let me start again. Sirach chapter, Salakia, Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 9. Sometimes it be, you know how it's kind of almost spelled the same. Besides the point, live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity, which he hath given thee under the sun, all the days of thy vanity, for that is thy portion in this life, and in thy labor which thou takest under the sun. Okay, you know, you not only judge with how you deal with, you know, enemies and by how hard you work, you know, by how much scripture you know, man, but is how do you treat the things that the Lord gave to you? Okay. You know, when it's time to fight, you fight, man. All right, when you're at home, you know, create peace as much as you can. Create peace as much as you can when you're at home. You know, show that same patience you show your coworkers and customers, and show that patience at home too, man. You know, be not as a lion in thy house, man. You know, I want to say, a little short testimony, man. For a long time, I thought I was just providing, working hard, and handling the business and staying in the gym and focused on my purpose, and that was enough. But I came to realize that physically being present, you know what I'm saying, and actually spending quality time with your woman ain't always being the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be sitting right there in the house, but like I could be sitting right there in the house, but I wasn't always mentally like present. I was always somewhere else, thinking about doing the work, thinking about, you always got to be doing the work, but thinking about the job, the plantation, the gym, the next move, always trying to move forward, accomplish something, man. But when I actually talked with her, I started really understanding that sometimes a woman really ain't asking for no whole lot of shit, man. Just a little bit of attention, man. Like I said, they children, they you know what I'm saying? You gotta give them a little bit of attention and companionship, and that really made me reflect on a few scriptures, man, especially like Sirach 9:1, teach her not an evil lesson against ourselves, man. Because our actions really do teach lessons, you know what I'm saying? And if we're not careful, we can really accidentally like teach our woman that she's not important, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. So like in this lesson, I'm really trying to actively apply this lesson that I'm doing in my own life as well, Adawan Ratazab, man. And I hope that you guys hear that, that you guys was edified. And, I want to say with that, the water Yahweh Shimi Al Shai, forgive me the spirit of this lesson. I hope that you all were edified. Shalom. On to the next one. Lord willing, Adawan Ratazab. Shalom.